I have your questions here. I now know more about you than you would think possible. Mostly what I know is that you're very interested in Doctor Who. Please no more questions. Hello, right. So, yes. Every other one of these we've done so far, and there have only been 3. I've had somebody else sort of running the event. In Symphony Space in New York, I had Erin Morgenstern, who wrote a wonderful book called The Night Circus. Last night I had NPR. There was an NPR show which was really weird, because what it meant was we did a half-hour-long NPR show, and then we just kept going. And as soon as we were off the air, he asked me to clarify all of the references to anything possibly obscene that I could not have said on the radio. And the very first of these, I got the very wonderful Amanda Palmer to come out. And she played the saddest ukulele song in the world. And then she interviewed me and did the questions and stuff. But here, it is just me. I toyed very, very briefly with the idea of bringing the Muppet Neil up on the stage to ask the questions, and then decided against it on the basis that it would just be too likely to produce a very, very strange internet meme. So yes, so you've all been told all the big important things, such as the kind of people who would get to pre-board on an aeroplane also get to come to the front of the line, because it really makes me sad when you get people hobbling in front of you at 11:30 at night. You've been standing the whole way in the yes, but it's worth it, and you can know it's not. I was in the Philippines. Thank you. I was in the Philippines a long time ago. What was it, like 2003, 2004, 2005, long time ago. And doing an event for 3,000 people. And Filipinos are the loudest people in the world. They are louder than Brazilians, and Brazilians think they're the loudest people. They're not, it's the Filipinos. And started signing at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for 3,000 people, none of whom were going anywhere. And round about 9 o'clock at night, with still another, 1,200 people left to go, I noticed an incredibly pregnant lady, and I said, oh. And I turned to the organizers and I said, can you just sort of put out a call for any incredibly pregnant ladies to the front of the line? And they said, not a problem, and they went off. And about 5 people later, I look up and there was another incredibly pregnant lady, and she says, thank you so much, I've been standing since 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it was really getting a bit much. I'm so grateful that you put out that call. And I said, well, you're very welcome. I should have thought of it earlier. I signed her books, and I give it to her, and then I signed for a very nice young man. And then there's another lady, and I say, oh, I said, you must be one of the pregnant ladies too. And she said, no, I'm just fat. I have never wanted to die. Quite as much as I did at that point. It's true. Right, so having, I book, yes. Book. accidentally written book. There's a very beautifully written article by Michael Kavanagh in the Washington Post today, which took me completely by surprise. I thought it was very wonderful, which actually tells the story of how I came to accidentally write a novel, which is basically because I missed my wife, who was off in Melbourne, Australia, making an album. And so I was working on a short story that I thought she'd like. And I knew she's not really very big on things like fantasy. Why she married me. She's very, she's astonishingly polite about my stuff that she doesn't like. She'll say, well, it's me. No, it's not you. She'll be nice. But I thought, I'll write a story that she'll like. And even if she doesn't like fantasy, I know there are things that she really does like a lot. Me. She likes me. And she likes honesty. And she likes feelings. And I normally don't do feelings very well, being English and male. I'll do feelings. And somebody knows somebody who's both English and male. So I started writing her a short story. And it was a short story really about sort of a 7-year-old me. The family wasn't quite my family, but the world was my world. And then it didn't stop. After a while I looked around and went, well, it's obviously a novelette. And then after a while, I'm going, well, it's a novella. And then I'm going, it's a very long novella. And even when I'd finished it in handwriting, which is how I write books first, I thought it was a very long novella. And then I typed it up. And when I finished typing it up, it was great. Amanda, by this point, had come back from Melbourne, Australia, and we were together in Dallas, where she was mixing the album. And every day I would go off, she'd mix the album, and I would go off to a coffee shop, and I would type up the story. And every night she'd come back, all jet-lagged and tired from mixing, and she'd get into bed, and I would read her what I'd typed that day. And then, in the morning, I would say, so where do you remember going up to before you fell asleep? And she'd say, oh, I think she was carrying a bucket. I'd say, okay. And I'd go back earlier, and I'd read through to the end of that. And when I finished typing it, I did a word count. And I sent a very surprised email to my editor that morrow. And I said, I appear to have written a novel.